Welcome back to Football Daily. Today we're talking about centre-halves. That's right, today we're looking at centre-backs. Now, what I've done is I've taken 25 of the most talked about names online. Not necessarily the 25 best, but the 25 most sent in and submitted names on the tweets I put out yesterday. I'm then going to be ranking them in the following tiers. Now, I wasn't sure how to do this, I'll be honest with you. I was going to do sort of elite, good, average, but instead I've just gone old school. S, A, B, C, D. Very simple. 25 of the most talked about centre-backs. Obviously, I have missed some out. Fikayo Tomori is not on here. I get that. Let's crack on with it. All right, some of these players, once I've placed them, I might well end up moving them a little bit later on in the show, so make sure you stay tuned till the end to see my final completed list, because, we're starting with Ibu Konate. I would probably put him middle of the pack right now. At 24, he does start ahead of some of the world's best centre-backs for France. He is picked ahead of Saliba by Didier Deschamps for France, isn't he? He is an excellent physical centre-back, underrated ball carrier as well from the centre of defence. I think he's helped, though, by having, in my opinion, maybe just below the 3 or 4 best centre-backs in the world, Virgil van Dijk alongside him. Obviously, had the knee injury never happened, and if we were talking about this a couple of years ago, there's no doubt we would be having him in S tier. He is a colossus, so good on the ball, so good in the air, so good at reading games, but I don't feel like he has the fear factor he had a couple of years ago, where players simply wouldn't go near him. Strikers wouldn't get involved in the orbit of Van Dijk. He had maybe 2 or 3 of the greatest seasons of any Premier League centre-back of all time. I think he probably sits number 3 on my list of all-time Premier League centre-backs behind Rio Ferdinand and John Terry. So yeah, I'm going to go A and B for now for Liverpool centre-back pairings. Okay, we're jumping country to Barcelona. Straight away, we've got Ronald Araujo. I think it's hard to disagree with him being an S tier. I think he has been one of the 3 or 4 best centre-backs in Europe over the last 18 months. You've got to look at him at 24 and the fact that, Barcelona only conceded 20 league goals last year on their way to the title. 20. Now, I know a large part of that was down to Ter Stegen, but Araujo, in terms of one-on-one defending, I think in terms of one-on-one defending, he might be the best, if not the second best centre-back in Europe. And then when you take into account his excellent on the ball ability, we're talking upwards of a 90% pass accuracy, upwards of 70 passes a game, which I understand you would kind of expect from a Barcelona centre-back. That's how they build their game. I think if he was injury-free, he might be the best centre-back in Europe. But the problem is he's had 13 injury setbacks since he joined Barcelona. The reason I've got him a tier ahead of Virgil van Dijk is I just think, because of his age and the last 18 months of football, I do think Araujo has had a better 18 months than Van Dijk. I'm sure I'm going to take some stick for that in the comments below, but he's just outstanding. Whenever he is asked to do a 1v1 job, be that pushed out to right back to play against Vinicius Jr., he's a beast, man. He's just an absolute beast. We've got Jules Koundé up next. I think if I've got Ibu Konate in B, I'm going to have to put Jules Koundé in B. Absolutely sensational on the ball. We can talk about some of the best ball-playing centre-backs in Europe. Koundé is certainly that. His numbers obviously get juiced a little bit because he plays a lot of minutes at right back. So when you look at his progressive carries, his progressive passes, obviously they jump a little bit because we're effectively talking about the statistical data of a right back here. But equally, excellent for France. He's been excellent since he's come in at Barcelona. He's extremely versatile, and I don't think we should hold that against him. I don't think he's Van Dijk quality, and he's, in my opinion, certainly not Araujo quality, but he is a very, very good centre-back. This is where things start to get really tricky, isn't it? Josko Gvardiol, who I think is, he's brilliant. He is brilliant. At 21 years old, what he was able to do in Germany and what we saw from him at the World Cup with Croatia, let's ignore the Argentina game where he got destroyed and dismantled by Lionel Messi. That can happen to anyone on the best of days. But the rest of the tournament, he was clearly outstanding. And there's a reason he's the second most expensive centre-back of all time. Do I think he's the completed product right now at 21 years of age? Maybe not quite, but he's certainly going to be up there. In a couple of seasons, I have no doubt we'll have Gvardiol up in this S tier. No doubt. But now, I think in a straight shootout, he is really good. He's Konate, he's Koundé good. I don't think he's a better centre-back than Virgil van Dijk right now. And it's because he's only 21 years of age. He doesn't have the experience on his side, and we just haven't seen enough top-level football from him to put him in the same tier as Virgil van Dijk right now, in my opinion. Next up, we've got Ruben Dias. I think this one's pretty simple. Clearly into the S tier. I think, last season was the best centre-back in Europe. I think I might have a different candidate for the best centre-back in Europe right now, this season, coming up a little bit later. But, definitely one of the 2 or 3 best centre-backs in Europe. Treble winner, I think, every single season he's been at Manchester City. He's won the league title. He's 26 now, so he's in his prime. Yeah, I think 1 or 2 on the list of best centre-backs in Europe, isn't he? We asked William Saliba on Saturday Social who he thought was the best centre-back in Europe. He said Ruben Dias. Pretty much every centre-back you speak to says Ruben Dias is the best centre-back in Europe. But right now, I think it's someone else. But I think, over the last 2 or 3 seasons, it's probably him. John Stones is up next. I kind of want to put John Stones in S, but I think purely down to the fact that is he really a centre-back now? I think you maybe just have to put him in A. If he was an out-and-out centre-half who played all of his time there, then there is clear arguments to be made he's in S tier. His on-the-ball ability, his progressive passes, his progressive carry numbers, his ability to get involved in build-up play that lead to chances is unheard of. He's the best on-the-ball centre-back in Europe. Of that, I have no doubt. But he does have, crazy problems with injuries. I love John Stones. I wish he was fitter. But, I think in 3 of his 6 seasons at Manchester City, I don't think he started over 12 Premier League games. And that's just a shame. But we are talking about a 5-time Premier League winner here, a treble winner, and a player that starts for any team in Europe at the back. Quite a lot of teams in defensive midfield too. I just think he is exceptional. I think he's probably on Van Dijk level right now, but not quite on Ruben Dias's level. Let's go to Real Madrid, where, 3 rock-solid centre-backs here. I think I'm going to put Eder Militao in the top tier. I just think in terms of players, and we're talking about, 26-year-old, 24-year-old Araujo, quite young to be in this top tier, but Militao at 25, I think we are talking about a centre-back fully involved in the prime of his career right now, and it's just such a shame he's picked up this knee injury. I think in terms of his one-on-one defending, Militao is absolutely sensational, really good on the ball, and incredibly consistent for Real Madrid and Brazil. You think at times for Brazil, he's actually, and at the World Cup, was playing at right back really to accommodate Thiago Silva and Marquinhos, who have obviously got that storied partnership at the back. But I kind of feel like he's superior to both of them by quite some distance. So I do think that was a bit of a shame to see him pushed out of position there, because we're talking about a 2-time La Liga winner here, a Champions League winner, and a real leader for Madrid. I think he is their best defender. I think he's better than Alaba. I think he's better than Rudiger. If everybody on this list was fully fit, he would be a contender for the best centre-back in Europe. Next up, we've got David Alaba. 31 years old right now. I think last season was the first time since 2011 that he hasn't won the league title. Obviously, a long time at Bayern Munich winning league titles. Comes to Madrid, wins a league title, wins a Champions League. Yeah, man, is he Stones and Van Dijk level right now? He probably is. I think he probably is. I think his experience and his on-the-ball ability do set him aside. His versatility is exceptional. I just think in terms of a big game, if there was a massive game tomorrow and the centre-back options were on the table, Alaba would be extremely high in my thinking. So I'm going to have to put him A, and then I think that means Rudy in B. Those two, it's very, very tight to split them. I think Militao is the best centre-back at Real Madrid, but I think in terms of Alaba And Rudiger, I just side with David Alaba because of his on-the-ball ability. I think Rudiger as a 1v1 defender is better. He's more aggressive. He's super physical. Very, very dominant in the air. And he is just a shithouse, which I absolutely love. But I would probably take a centre-back partnership of Militao and Alaba over him. Next up, we've got Levi Colwill at Chelsea. I think just based on the number of games we've seen from Levi Colwill, we have to put him in D, right? Like, we haven't seen him make 30 Premier League appearances yet. He's obviously got a massively high ceiling, but we haven't really seen it at centre-back. We saw it for half a season at centre-back at Brighton, where he did look exceptional. We've seen him do it for the under-21s, winning the Euros in the summer, exceptional. But at Chelsea, more of a left-back, really. And, I've got full-backs in there, really. Koundé has been playing predominantly at full-back at Barcelona. But Levi Colwill hasn't staked a claim at centre-back this season or at any stage of his senior career outside of a 6-month period at Brighton. Whereas we saw Koundé do that at Sevilla. So I think definitely one for the future, but for now, it's D. Thiago Silva, I might put in D as well. I think he was really good last year. And certainly since he's been at Chelsea, with the Champions League win, exceptional. But this season, I think he has taken a little bit of a step back. No surprise, because he's 39. But I've got to have a couple of people in D here. I think if it was based on your entire career, and we've seen him win titles in Italy, the amount of silverware he won at PSG, Copa America winner with Brazil, then of course Thiago Silva will be way up. He's a legend of the footballing game. But right now, I would maybe not be starting him for Chelsea. I think if everybody was fit there, I don't know whether Thiago Silva would be starting in my Chelsea 11 given his current form. So I'm going D. I'm definitely taking penalties for that in the comments. Bayern Munich have some centre-backs, don't they? Goodness me. I mean, Matthias de Ligt at 24 years old. 3 league titles in 3 different countries now, right? Bundesliga, Serie A, Eredivisie already. Clearly a leader on the field. Actually very underrated on the ball. Can be a sluggish at times, and he's obviously had injury problems. He's kind of battling out with Deo Upamecano right now as well, isn't he? I think, again, in B, had an exceptional season last year. Exceptional. Much, much better at Bayern, I felt like, than when he was at Juventus, although some of his work at Juventus slightly underappreciated as well. I think B's fair for him, and I think Kim is going to go in at A for me. Based on what we saw last season at Napoli, where he was one of the best centre-backs in Europe, he was. In a Napoli side that won the first Scudetto in, 30 or so years, won Serie A Defender of the Year, has arrived in Bavaria and been exceptional for Bayern. We have to put him in A. I would almost be tempted to put him up in S, but I feel like Militao, particularly Ruben Dias, and Araujo have just been doing it for slightly longer at that elite level. If we see Kim do it for another season, at the end of this season, I would expect Kim to be up in that S. But those two, very, very solid. And then Upamecano as well. I think I'm going to put Upamecano in B. I really like him. And I actually think he takes an unnecessary amount of stick. He's very, very calm on the ball. A really intelligent centre-back. But he does have a bit of a positional howler in him. Like, he can be exposed quite badly, I think, by a really elite centre-forward. And it's happened on a few occasions. Positionally, he just goes to sleep. I think Kim this season will cover up a lot of his errors. And if that's the case, then you might well see a much more confident Upamecano battling out with de Ligt for that other centre-back spot. Let's go to Tottenham then. Much talked about here, by the way. Mickey van der Ven. Where do we put Mickey van der Ven? I mean, coming off a great season with Wolfsburg. At just 22 years old as well, I cannot believe how good he's been for Spurs. I think it's been one of the signings of the summer, one of the bargain signings of the summer at £40 million. I don't think he's quite on the level of B, because, we've got league title winners in here, players that have been doing it for a number of years at the highest level. But I think he's probably going to go into C. I think right now, I would take Mickey van der Ven over Levi Colwill. Now, Colwill in the future might overtake him. And I feel like this is a little bit of a recency biased pick. Because, Thiago Silva, obviously, better career than Mickey van der Ven, clearly. But I feel like if you were offering me a player to play tomorrow in a massive game out of these 3, I'm taking Mickey van der Ven. Like, His physicality, his speed, his calmness and composure on the ball, capped for Holland this midweek. Yeah, again, I know I'm going to take pelters, but I just think in a straight shootout and the game's tomorrow, I'm taking Van de Ven. Christian Romero. Christian Romero. I think probably the tier above Mickey van de Ven, just because World Cup win, more experienced, probably a slightly better all-round centre-back right now, and the leadership just pushes me towards him a little bit more. Part of that Tottenham leadership group now, and I think the extra responsibility that Ange put on his shoulders has really worked for him. Like, he's playing with much more discipline. So I'll put him in alongside these players. I don't think he's Kim Min-jae, John Stones, Van Dijk, Alaba levels, but I do think, again, he could get up there. He genuinely could get up there if Spurs have an outstanding season. Bastoni, this is a difficult one because Inter Milan, hard to judge. They are so hard to break down. A league title, Champions League finalist. How do you not put him in amongst these guys? I think given his age, at just 24, and his ability on the ball, you've got to talk about Bastoni as one of the biggest talents in Europe, especially in Italy right now. Do I put him B or C? I think I'm going to keep him in B for now. He might well change, Bastoni. Okay, let's keep rolling through. We're at Man United, where we've got Lisandro Martinez, World Cup winning Lisandro Martinez, Carabao Cup winning Lisandro, Eredivisie winning Lisandro Martinez. Look, it's very, very clear, post the injury, he hasn't been the same player. The foot was not fixed correctly. The bone was still broken. He's playing through a ridiculous amount of painkillers. He's gone back to reset the bone, get the surgery redone. Hopefully it works much, much better. So I think we can only really take him before his injury, where he was, outstanding for Manchester United. Absolutely outstanding on the ball. The first two games where he was getting ridiculed for his height were long forgotten, weren't they? With his defensive ability, positional play, intelligence in his passing. But, is he as good as Josko Gvardiol, as Jules Koundé, as Antonio Rudiger? I think he might well be a C, man. But then, Bastoni. Is Bastoni a bit high here? Is Bastoni a bit high? Am I getting sucked in by Serie A tax? I think Bastoni's maybe a tier too high. I'm dropping Bastoni back down alongside Mickey van de Ven. I'm going to leave Leach in there for now. Oh, God, but is he better than... No, I'm going to leave Leach in there for now. He might jump up a tier, Lisandro Martinez, based on who's to come. Rafa Varane up next. And look, storied history at Real Madrid, Champions League Varane, and he's been okay for United. He's been solid for United, hasn't he? But he's been injured an awful lot, and I don't think he's on the level of Koundé, Konate, Josko Gvardiol, Rudiger. With his physicality, I think he is an exceptional professional. Clearly very experienced. But if we're all honest, the miss of Kim Min-jae in the summer for Manchester United, that was a big error. Big error. Kim Min-jae at £40 million would have been United's best centre-back by a distance. So I think that was a big error, and I think Rafa Varane over the next 18 months, United might well have to think, do we need to sign someone because of these injury problems? And that probably was a factor when they signed him in the first place. Next up, we've got Marquinhos, who I think is probably a B. It's such a shame, in my opinion, everybody knows my opinions on PSG, but it's just such a shame Marquinhos, we've really only ever seen him throughout his career in Paris. I would just love to have seen him get away from that club, ply his trade at another one of Europe's super sides, but we're not going to see that, I don't think, or at least not in his prime. We're talking about a 29-year-old here. Amazing on the ball. Look at those pass accuracy numbers. I think we're talking upwards of 94, 95% accuracy, because PSG have so much the ball. He can be so dominant. He can step out the line. I think physically is very, very strong. Don't think he's done it on the European stage enough to warrant being up here, though. PSG have just been a total letdown on the European stage. They have. But I think he probably is a better centre-back just because of his experience, because of what he's able to bring to the side in terms of leadership and calm and composure on the ball, than some of these guys down here. I don't know. I'm torn on Marquinhos. PSG just always boggle my brain. Skriniar. Maybe this is just me. But whenever I watch Skriniar, I never see him play well. Like, even when he went to St James's Park, I just don't see it. Like, there's obviously a good player in there because, so highly rated at Inter Milan, but he's just so slow. Like, so slow. And I get that, he's great on the ball. I think in terms of accurate passes in Europe this season, he is about 200 clear of any other player in Europe. Over 800 accurate passes, obviously helped by the fact that PSG is so dominant on the ball in Ligue 1. But when he's off the ball and when he's put up against really top-level elite opponents, I feel like they just run past him. I don't know. Maybe it's just the games I've watched of him because I don't watch loads of PSG. And the games of him when he was in Italy, the majority of the time, were Champions League matches where he's up against the best of the best. So my opinion probably has been swayed by those moments. And PSG and Inter Milan fans, let me have it because I'm sure I'm talking nonsense, but I just don't get it. Gabriel, I think if we've got Romero, Gvardio in B, Canate in B, I think Gabriel's got to go in B. He would be high Bs for me. Like, if we were talking about Bs, he would be, if we were rearranging this, he would be right up here alongside, like, probably Koundé, Gvardio, Matthias de Ligt. I think he is exceptional. I think he's actually underrated, as I argued on Team Talk this week. If you haven't already seen the episode of Team Talk where we discuss who's been underrated and overrated, go and watch that now. At Arsenal, we've also got William Saliba. Let's just be honest here. Let's be honest. Let's be real. Let's be real. Right now, this season, he's been the best centre-back in Europe. This season. He has. He's been the best centre-back in Europe this season. Like, Araujo's been injured at times. Militao has, torn his ACL. Diaz has been good, but he's not been as good as Saliba. Like, I think Saliba and probably Kim again have been maybe the two best centre-backs in Europe this season. But I think Saliba has been quite a way clear of anyone. It feels like when I watch Saliba, I'm watching prime Van Dijk. I don't want to go over the top here because he's not prime Van Dijk. Prime Van Dijk was a different beast. But at 22, we're watching as close to that as I can remember. Like, he's an outrageous talent. Outrageous. We're talking about a player's physicality, composure, passing ability, match intelligence, game reading, vision, threat in both boxes, leadership. Like, at 22... I haven't seen anything like this in years. Like, Van Dijk, imperious, what a warrior. And like I said, third best centre-back of the Premier League generation, in my opinion. But we didn't really see that until he was in his late 20s, post-Southampton. We didn't see that certainly when he was 22. Where was he at 22, Van Dijk? Groningen? Just checked. He just left Groningen for Celtic, where obviously he went on to win the league title. So he just got his move to Celtic there, first season. We're seeing Saliba do it at a Champions League level, at a league title competitive level, against some of the best strikers in the world, i.e. Erling Haaland, and being dominant in those games. I think this season Saliba's been the best centre-back in the world, and I think you have to have him in the S tier. Finally, we've got Sven Botman. I think really highly rated, but I would probably put him in a similar sort of level to Mickey van de Ven. Mickey van de Ven right now, obviously Botman's injured, so it's a bit harsh, but is having a better season than him. I think Botman's impact on Newcastle when he arrived last season was massive. So was Lisandro Martinez's, though, and I've got him in that tier. Like, I could jump him up, but again, I don't think we've seen enough Botman on a Champions League stage or at the elite level of the Premier League to put him on the calibre of some of these guys. He's definitely going to be up there, though. In a couple of years, I have no doubt. Alright, so that's my tier list of the best centre-backs in Europe. Obviously, it's going to cause some controversy. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, hit subscribe. We'll see you later. Goodbye.